So the most simplest one is something called a rectangular prism or rectangular solid, let's say. So a rectangular solid is basically like a three-dimensional rectangle. So that's a three-dimensional rectangle. So it doesn't just have a length and a width anymore, it also has a height, as you can see. What if I ask you to find the surface area? So we've already talked about the area. So the surface area is how much area I have on the surface. So you can see that, you have a front and a back. You have a right and a left and a top and a bottom. So there's 6 spaces altogether on the surface. So for that very reason, the surface area formula means I have to find the area of every face and add up the areas. That's what a surface area is. So for this one, it's going to be twice the length times the width. So if I do the length times the width, that's like the same on the top and bottom. So I also have the same thing on top. That's why we're multiplying that by 2. Plus twice the width times the height. So the width times the height is like having a rectangle on the right side and having an identical one on the left side. And then also we have 2 times L times H. So LH, I have H on this side as well. So I have one in the front and one on the back. So this will give you the surface area for this figure. So volume is kind of like area, but it's like area in 3 dimensions. So instead of figuring out how many squares I can put, I care about how many cubes I can fit inside. How many 1 by 1 by 1 cubes will fit inside the figure. So in this case, the formula for the volume for this figure is length times the height, length times the width times the height would give you the volume of a rectangular solid. Okay, so that's a rectangular solid. Of course, we have a few other shapes that we should talk about. Let's talk about a square pyramid. That's a little bit more complicated. So a square pyramid, the reason why they call it that is because the base of the pyramid is a square. So it'll look something like this. So if you go to Egypt, you've seen pyramids already. So everything here is this is a square. All the sides are the same. So a pyramid has a certain height. So those pyramids in Egypt have a certain height to them from the tip all the way to the base. H is the height. So S is like a side length. Okay. So what if I want to find the area of the surface area of this? Okay, so the formula to do so is, notice that we have a square base, right? So the square base means S squared. So we talked about a minute ago, we talked about the area of the square is S squared, right? So that's that part. But it also has four faces on it that are triangles too. So that one's a little bit more complicated. So the formula is going to be s squared plus s times s squared inside the radical plus 4h squared. So this is the surface area. So you have the square base plus the area of all four triangles that make up the body of the pyramid gives you the surface area. So the volume is 1/3 times B times H. So B is the area of the base. So in this case, we know that the area of the base is a square. So that's going to be s squared. So in other words, this formula becomes 1/3 times s squared times h if you have a square base. So if your pyramid might not have a square base, it might have a triangular base, it might have a pentagon base, then it would change. But in this case, it's a square, so the area of that would be s squared. So 1/3 times s squared times the height gives you the volume of the pyramid. Okay. Let's do an example. So let me draw a pyramid real fast.